Don't mess up your gear by taping down knobs or marking your settings. With Lock Knob, you can lock down your settings and protect them from unwanted movement. You'll never lose your signature sound.
Man, those are some big tones from big businesses, Jared. How you doing, Jared?
All right, man. Not so bad.
Good, man. I'm glad you could join us. It took a pandemic to happen for us to do this rig rundown, but I'm glad that we have you today. I'm in Nashville. You're in Los Angeles, so let's get to it, man. People probably obviously know you from big business when you guys morphed into the Melvins as well, and if you're a super fan, you know them from Carp back in the 90s. But let's dig into what your big business setup has evolved into, because I think when it started, it wasn't quite as massive.
No, it wasn't maybe quite as massive. It's gotten a little more complicated for sure.
Should we start with the bass? Kind of go from there. Because I know you played jazz basses most of your career, right?
Did. Well, I played Squires for most of my career, but when I joined the Melvins, I felt compelled to have pro gear as well as a pro attitude. So I bought two proper jazz basses. They were identical. They're the same. This one is all stock. I didn't do anything to it at all.
Okay.
Same everything. Nothing fancy.
And why the jazz over the precision? You know, those are the two basses people, you know, in the Fender world that really gravitate towards.
Right. Yeah. I didn't get hip to a P bass. I didn't. I come from punk rock, and the punk rock bands that I saw when I was growing up. In particular, there was a band, Unwound, who were a couple years older than myself, and they were kind of our big brother band, big brother, big sister band, big sibling band. And Vern, the bass player, he played a jazz bass, and it was just, I don't know, he played one, so I guess I thought that it seemed like I should play one too, I guess. So it was just a matter of circumstance, really. At the time, I didn't have the money for a real jazz bass, and so I just bought a Squire because what I could afford, and it served me well. I appreciate a Squire's roughness around the edges. I think it particularly lends itself well to distortion or effects because it has a little bit more of like. It's a clean palette, I guess, more so than a P bass.
Gotcha.
I think if we had a guitar player, I own a P bass now that I play, you know, for my own enjoyment, and in, you know, various projects or whatever. But I think P basses are great. I love the way they sound. I like them when other people play them, especially myself. With effects and stuff, I think a P bass is hard to. A P bass wants to be a P bass no matter what, and it will always sound like one no matter kind of how much stuff you put on it. Has been my experience anyway. That it's hard to make it not sound like a P bass is super difficult. And with a jazz bass, it's easier. It's more flexible, and I feel like I can kind of just put anything on it, and it'll sound like what I want it to sound like.